All right. Thank you. When you try to do a video, but a YouTube notification pops up and you can't see yourself to start freaking video. Welcome, welcome. Tubi Horror Weekend 3. That's right. The third one. I haven't checked since I got home from work, but the last time I checked this morning before I left, stupid notification, go away! Before I left for work, it was at 202. So thank y'all very much for subscribing. Thank you. So here we are, and we're starting with Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, starring Donald Sutherland as Matthew. And admittedly, this is a movie I've wanted to watch for a long time. It's one of those movies where you hear about the ending. Like, it's one... So, like, yes, going into this, much like Sleepaway Camp, I knew the ending going in. That didn't take away from my experience. That didn't take away from my enjoyment, because I really enjoyed this movie. Spoiler alert for my rating. My nose itches so much right now. But yeah, so these gelatinous alien creatures come to Earth, start taking over the human race one by one with these pods. And it is a remake of the 1956 film of the same name. In fact, the director of the original film plays a cab driver in this, and the lead actor from the original film actually plays a character who actually says his iconic line, "They're everywhere, they're gonna get you," or something like that. I don't remember the line. I've heard it. And that led people to say, oh, this might be a sequel and that could be the same guy, but it wouldn't make sense that the invasion started in 1956 and hasn't finished at this point. Plus, beginning of the film, we see them come from their planet to Earth, so I don't think so. Robert Duvall also has a cameo in this as a priest, and it said in the commentary, I guess, that he's the first to be duplicated. So, yes, and it's very, like, they let you think at the beginning of this, because, Elizabeth, she thinks something's wrong with her husband, and, she tries to tell Matthew, and here's the thing I didn't know. So, every image I've seen of Donald Sutherland in this film, he's wearing a trench coat of some sort. So I'm like, oh, is he a detective? Is he a cop? Or something? He's a health inspector. So I wasn't prepared for that. When he walks into the restaurant and goes, "I'm the health inspector," I'm like, wait, what? Really? And I think the original was like a doctor of some sort, but he's a health inspector. That threw me off. I was like, really? He's a health inspector? When this director, Kaufman, when he asked the other director and the original director and the original star what they would change for a remake. Sorry. What they would change for a remake. They said they would add a little more comedy to it and have a darker ending, which it does. There's not like a lot of comedy. There's just a little bit in there, here and there. Like it's the original one, at the behest of the studio, the comedy taken out, and they had a more happier ending. Although I've read the synopsis for the original, and the ending, while sort of a happier ending, I don't know. It doesn't really imply that there's a survival, but yeah. So actors in this, we have, like I said, Donald Sutherland playing Matthew. I don't remember the actress's name who plays Elizabeth. But Jeff Goldblum plays the character of Jack. You also have Veronica Cartwright of Alien fame playing his wife Nancy. And Mr. Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy, plays Dr. David in this, Matthew's friend, who's mentioned earlier in the film and then shows up at a book signing later. But yeah, and what I do like about the beginning of this first half, is that you don't know if anything is actually going on. Could it be in her head? Her husband's just acting differently. You see a few things, even though you've seen, like, something coming to Earth at the beginning of this, is it done to mess with your head? Like, it plays with the paranoia. Like, is there something going on? Is she losing her mind? And then, without a doubt, something starts to happen when Jack and Nancy find a strange body at their mud bath spa place. And it starts to resemble Jack. So, I don't know, I just thought of this. Like, we see later in the film when Matthew is sleeping on his patio, a bunch of pods burst open and they start to change, like, right away, and they're changing fast. However, this one of of Jack, it seems to stop. Maybe because he woke up, because he starts to fall asleep again, and you see the pod thing open his eyes, but when Nancy wakes him up, the eyes close again, so maybe that's why it's stalled, but like, I don't know. But, yeah. So, of course, Matthew, no one believes Elizabeth when she tries to say that her boyfriend is different. It's not her boyfriend. He's been taken or something. They don't believe her. That is until Matthew sees the other body. And he's like, well, I gotta call Elizabeth. So he tries to call her. But boyfriend takes the phone off the receiver. I mean, this is 1978, so you had that. And so when the phone is off the receiver, you get a busy signal. So he says, call my friend Dr. David, and I will go get Elizabeth. Dr. David shows up, and the body has mysteriously disappeared. Now, here's my problem with this. So we find out at some point Dr. David has become a pod person. When did that happen? I think from the moment he showed up at the bathhouse, he was a pod person. It's hard to tell because it's Leonard Nimoy, and he's perfect at hiding emotions, being calm. I think the last time we see him human is when the book signing, and then they go separate ways. Because he makes the comment that, who else are you going to wake up? He was asleep. And they get you when you're asleep. So, I think that Dr. David was already infected when he showed up at the bathhouse. Because here's what I think happened. Two things could have happened here. One, they called Dr. David. Dr. David told the garbage people to take the body out through the window and dispose of it so that, there's no proof. Although, this is my problem though. If he was infected, why not just show him the body and have him say, oh, make up an excuse or something, I don't know. The other thing, which is probably not likely, is that it took over David, but I don't think David went back to sleep after that. So, no, not David, but Jack. But I don't think Jack went back to sleep after that, so I don't think so. But, just a thought. At some point, and here's another thing, so we established you have to fall asleep for it to get you, right? If you wake up, it stalls, right? So, later we find out that David and Jack have both been taken. When did Jack get taken? When did he fall asleep? We see him and Nancy run off to distract the pod people, and they get separated. So, the only thing I can think of is they caught Jack and forced him to sleep. Put a sedative in him like they were going to do with Matthew and Elizabeth, and forced him to sleep to turn him. only thing I could think of. And, yes, basically at this point becomes a running around the city thing. They go to Matthew's apartment, they try to hide out there, turns out doesn't work. There are pods there, and they all wake up, run off. We already seen before this that Dr. David was, turned, because he gets in the car and boyfriend is there and another character is there, so yeah, he was already turned. But then so it's just Matthew and Elizabeth left, and they're approached in they get to the health inspector's office. They take Speed because she surmises, because she found, how this started was she found one of the pods, a little pod with a flower in it, and she put it on the bedstand, and the next morning her husband had turned. But she's lucky it didn't choose her. I'm just saying. But so she wants to do tests on it, and I think she really should have pushed on her doing the test, because I'm pretty sure the guy was already taken. But so they take Speed, and when they're injected with this sedative, it doesn't work. So they kill the Jack double, and they lock the Dr. David double in the freezer. And this is where I felt, if they were going for a happy ending, they would have come up with something like, cold is what kills them. Which is why they started in California. It takes place in San Francisco. So starting in California would work, because California, it's hot there, right? So, yeah. But the cold is, I would think that would be a solution, and that would have finished them. But there is no, they say they tried to stop, but at some point they just give up. They say, oh, someone's going to stop you. There's several times, which I don't know why it takes so long for Matthew to figure it out, but he keeps calling. Eventually, they know his name. And he's like, how do you know my name? How do you know my name? I didn't say my name. I didn't say my name. But they knew who he was, because they've been watching him. So who knows how far it spread. I'm pretty sure it hasn't spread past San Francisco yet, unless it's just officials. But yeah, it's not good. So on the way of sneaking out of the building, they run into Nancy, who looks like she's been turned, but it turns out she's pretending. And they set this up earlier, this thing where this guy is playing his guitar with a dog, and I thought they were going to do a thing where he's just sitting there at one point, but no. We see him and the dog sleeping in the outside, because he's a homeless man. And then later, when they come out, they're trying to pretend, but then Elizabeth sees a dog with a human head, because it fused them together. The pod fused them together. But here's my problem, is that he kicks it and it looks like it bleeds. And then later, another pod is hit and it bleeds, and that one's just dead. So, I don't know what happened, but she freaks out and it causes them to separate again. Nancy gets separated because she's got to be by herself for the ending of the film. And so I'm going to get to my biggest problem with this. The force, it seems very forced, to me at least. Love interest between Matthew and Elizabeth. Alright, so Elizabeth has a boyfriend at this point, and he's been turned. And they think they're not going to survive, so they declare their love for each other. And I know some people have praised this, Like, oh, they were in love the entire time. Yeah, it's obvious that they had feelings for each other. There are points where I'm like, are they gonna kiss? But they don't. And I'm just like, she has a boyfriend, so maybe that's why. But like, he admits his love for her. She's like, Elizabeth, I love you. She's like, I love you. And then later, we get this. This is where it works for me. Is where he goes to check that they're hiding in some grass somewhere, and he hears ships. He's like, we're gonna get out of here. And the ships, stay here, I'll be right back. Why the fuck does he leave her there? He shouldn't leave her alone. But he runs off to the ship, and he sees the pods being loaded on it, so he can't go there. So he runs back to her, and she's fallen asleep. And as he's holding her, embracing her, telling her to wake up, saying, I love you, she disintegrates, and a naked clone shows up. And I call bullshit. There's no fucking way there was just a pod right there in the grass. There is no way. It's too convenient for it to work like that. Like, oh, there just happens to be a pod there. I know they're implying that all the pods could be anywhere because it came in as rain, and it could be on all planets that were hit by the rain, but I don't know. It's too convenient for me to believe that it would work that way. But yes, he runs off and he tries to destroy this factory, warehouse, whatever, and they do the scream or whatever, and you see the naked woman doing that, and I guess she was very iffy about doing the nudity, but hey, she did a good job with the scene, naked and all. Even though she comes in there, she's still naked. I'm like, how long is she gonna be naked? I'm not gonna look at a naked woman, but I don't know. It's very tasteful, though. Just saying. There's a scene earlier where the thing is copying her, and you have the nakedness, and I'm like, why didn't I think she would be naked when it copied him? I don't know, but it threw me out. I'm like, oh yeah, of course they'd be naked. I don't know, but Matthew's on the run. Eventually, he hides underneath a bridge, and the next morning we see him walking to his office, looking as if he is without emotion. Now, one could conceive this, and see this as, oh, he's pretending so he doesn't get taken. Great. But we get the ending, and the ending makes this movie for me. I already knowing the ending, when it happened, I still was like, yeah, I could see how that freaked people out. I could see why they did it. It's a great ending where Matthew's walking outside, and then all of a sudden you hear, Matthew! Matthew! And it's Nancy. She comes up to him and she's smiling. And he turns around and he goes, ah! She goes, Matthew, no! And this also adds to it that the director said he doesn't remember whether or not he told Veronica about how the scene was going to go down. So if he didn't, I guess it worked. But yeah, this movie was good. I enjoyed it. In fact, I'm going to have to say it's pretty good. Before I go, they did remake this movie twice more times. There was a 1956 version, there was this version. In 1993, they made Body Snatchers, which took place in a military installation, which, I don't know, those kind of things doesn't work for me. And then there was The Invasion in 2007, which starred Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. That one I might want to check out. Two good actors there. But, yeah, this was pretty good. And a good start to Tubi Horror Weekend 3. So what are your thoughts on Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Let me comment below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.